Okay, we are back with the last one I was going to do on page 22. So this one where I have 2 times the quantity x minus 7 times the quantity x plus 7 equals 0. So again, like all the ones on this in this section, it is already factored for you, and it's a matter of setting each of those factors equal to 0. Now, you'll notice what happens here is we've got a 2 out front. So we know that 2 cannot equal 0. And really what we think about in this case is that we divide it out, because it doesn't make a difference in our total answer. And 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So we don't have to worry about that. And we just set each of those terms that actually has an x, it has one of those x variables in it, equal to 0. So then we have x minus 7 or x plus 7. So x is 7 or negative 7. And again, for this situation, I'm not going to write out an explicit checking of each of those, because you can see if you plug in 7 here, 7 minus 7, 0. So we'd have 0 times something is 0. And if you put in negative 7 here, negative 7 plus 7, also 0. So either case, you're going to get something that will give you a 0 as one of the factors and make that statement true for checking purposes. All right, we're going to flip over here to the page 23. Okay, so here's where we really get looking at these starting from the very beginning. And so you're really going to first want to think about, because we're always thinking about factoring in these situations, is your factoring completely checklist. So let's start with that one that's on the top left there. So first, is it in descending order? Yes. Is there a greatest common factor between all 3 terms? No. And then I noticed that a is 1, right? Our leading coefficient on p squared there is 1. So we can just look at factoring the 15 and figuring out which pair of factors for 15 will get us a middle term of 2. And specifically, we're looking for negative 2 in this situation. Sorry, shift over here on my desk a little bit. All right, so hopefully you're saying to yourself, yes, 3 and 5 would be good. We know that one will be positive, one will be negative, because the 15 is negative. So we're looking at something with this setup, and then we need to decide, is it going to be a positive, are we going to add and have 3p and then subtract and get negative 5p, or is it going to be reversed? And in this situation, it is going to be a positive 3p and a negative 5p. And you remember, you can FOIL this out to double check. Make sure that you have done your factoring properly. So we'd have minus 5p plus 3p minus 15. And you can see that those middle terms will add to negative 2p, matching what you have up there. Okay, so all right, so we check our factoring by FOILing, and then now we get back to actually doing the solving of the equation. So using that 0 product rule, we've gotten this as something that is all broken up into factors multiplied together on one side and 0 on the other. So set each of those equal to 0, and then we will solve those. So if it's plus 3 is 0, then subtract 3 from both sides. We're going to have p is negative 3 or p is positive 5. Do remember to go back to the original equation for our checking. So we're looking at p squared minus 2p minus 15 equals 0, and plugging in the negative 3 and the positive 5 in there by turns. So let's see here, negative 3 squared minus 2 times negative 3 minus 15, and does that equal 0? All right, so this will give us a positive 9 plus 6 minus 15, and yeah, that we're going to get a 0 equals 0 on that. And then if we plug in the positive 5, so 5 squared minus 2 times 5 minus 15, does that one equal 0? So 25 minus 10 minus 15, and we will also get a 0 equals 0 there. So both of those answers do check in our original equation, so we can throw the box around it and call it good. All right. The top right one is very similar, so I'm going to skip that one for now because it's fairly similar to things that we've been doing previously. I want to make sure that we look at some of these ones where we have to think a little bit, where the book writers are trying to test our knowledge and make sure that we are on our toes with looking at these. So for this 2q squared minus 7q equals 4, all right, it is in descending order, but not everything is on one side, with the one side equal to 0. So we do need to, subtract that 4 from both sides. Really important step. And it's one that we sometimes overlook because we get so many of these exercises where it's already solved for 0, we kind of forget about it. So don't, make sure that it's set equal to 0. We are in descending order. And now, since we are focused on factoring for our method of solution, we are going to see, do we have a greatest common factor in these three terms for this trinomial? We do not have a greatest common factor other than 1. So at this point, I do need to look at using the AC method. So AC would be 2 and negative 4, technically, but so we're looking at 8 is what we are factoring to get our middle term. So to get a middle term of negative 7, I'm going to want to focus on the 1 and 8 there. So the 2q squared and the minus 4, those stay the same. And we are now going to plug in those 2q terms that will add to negative 7q, but will help us to get this multiplication working properly. So we're going to want q and negative 8q. So positive 1q and negative 8q are going to be those two pieces that we're going to plug in there. And I would recommend putting them in that order. If you flip-flop it and you're having trouble doing the factoring by grouping at that point, remember that you can shuffle these terms around to make it easier to do that factoring by grouping. Okay, now that we've got the 4 terms, and I am going to pair those up inside parentheses. And, it's okay that we've got addition still here. We're still in the process of factoring this. Eventually we will get this is 0 equal to some things multiplied together over here on the left. And now that I'm just looking at pairs, I do have some greatest common factors. So I can factor q out of that pair, leaving behind 2q plus 1. And then with this second pair, I am going to want to factor out at least 4, right? And then you need to make the decision about whether 4 or negative 4 would be the most useful. Given that we've got both of those being negative, that's usually a pretty good indicator that we will want to pull out the negative factor. And if we do that, then that's going to leave behind a positive 2q plus 1, which will match the first binomial that we got there. So then I am heading down the path I want to with the factoring by grouping. So then 2q plus 1 is the initial binomial, and then the leftovers go in the other one, so q minus 4, and set equal to 0. Okay, and then this is still just what we've been doing before, just with that added equals 0 on the end. So up until here, there is nothing new. The new part is then taking each of those and setting them equal to 0 and solving and checking. So really, if you look over Unit 4, we've been building every single new thing that we're learning has been building to this. Has been building to being able to do this factoring so that we can solve things. All right, so I do have those two linear equations now that I can solve. So 2q equals -1, so q is -1/2, or q equals 4. So -1/2 and 4 are the two possibilities we have. Going back to the original equation. So remember that that actually was not equal to 0 at the beginning. And then we'll do a quick substitution for each of those. So putting in -1/2 for q and seeing if we will get that equal to 4. Let's scoot this up a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing. Let's see here. So this would be 2/1 times 1/4. Negative times a negative will be plus 7/2. And we want to see if that is going to be equal to 4. Ooh, excuse me. So this would be 1/2 plus 7/2. So 8/2. And yeah, that is going to be equal to 4. So again, you can do this in your calculator if you want, but if you're getting weird answers all the time, then I would recommend, trying to do it by hand a little bit first before you go over to the calculator consistently. For the other one, so plugging in 4 for each of the instances of q. So 2 times 16 minus 28, and we're trying to find out if that's going to be 4. So let's see, 32 minus 28, and yeah, that will also be 4. So we can now with some certainty put that q is -1/2 or 4 for that one on page 23. All right. Now let's look at the one that is on the bottom right there, page 23. And then it's probably going to take us to the end of this video, and then we'll look at a few more after that. Okay, so 4a squared minus 49 equals 0. Okay, set equal to 0, so we're good there. It's in descending order. It is two terms, so the immediate thing you want to think is this a difference of squares? Is that a difference of squares? And, so check. Is this a perfect square? Yeah, it's 2a times 2a. Is this a perfect square? Yep, that's 7 times 7. So if I notice that it's a difference of squares, we're going to have 2a plus 7 and 2a minus 7 as my two factors. And here's where those factoring shortcuts really help, because the factoring is the middle part of the problem. We can go right from this to this, and then I can continue on with doing the solution part of this. So using the 0 factor rule to set each of those equal to 0, and then adding 7 to both sides and dividing by 2. So a is 7/2, or a is -7/2. And then go back to check those in the original equation. Okay, so 7/2, again, if you want to use the 3.5 in that for checking purposes, that's fine. Just be careful when you're doing your calculator work that only the 3.5 is getting squared.